There we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Yogesh Chavda, and I am the founder of Y2S Consulting, and I'm also a faculty member at the University of South Carolina. As most of you know, I also publish this newsletter called In Search of Normal, where I talk about brands that operate in stigmatized industries. And more recently, I've been talking a lot about AI in marketing and market research. Today, we're going to do a bit of a pivot. We're going to talk actually to somebody who has had an amazing set of experiences uh, when it comes to Gen Zs. He's had a front row seat in not only seeing this audience grow in front of him, he's actually helped train so many of them in marketing, and he's seen them and he's helped them launch their careers into marketing. So I am really, really excited to have Jeff Rehling today join us from the University of South Carolina. He is the director of the Center of Marketing Solutions, and he's also a clinical faculty member at the university. And in full transparency to everybody, I've been sitting on this board for the last decade or so, and I've known Jeff for the last decade, and I've seen him in action firsthand. And that's the reason why I wanted him to join this session today, because he's got a lot of information in his head, and I want him to share it because I think it's of value to everybody who's listening in today, basically. So, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Yogesh. I'm glad to be here. Good afternoon, everyone.
So let's get straight into it. So, Jeff, before you came to South Carolina, you had a professional career. So just give us a sense of, a little bit of your background. What got you to South Carolina? What's motivating and driving you? Just give us a sense of that first.
Sure. Yeah, at the university, Yogesh and I are both kind of what are known as, maybe by a few different names, but practitioners or professors of practice, whatever you want to call it. But I spent 20 plus years in practice before I went into academia. Primarily, I started in a brand and product management track. I was a marketing major, started in brand and product management, worked on the Mont Blanc brand. And when that was brought over from Germany into the United States, went to Crayola, spent 8 years in Crayola, working my way into business development. And from there, left to go to Sesame Workshop, the makers of Sesame Street in New York, and worked on business development initiatives and marketing initiatives there for several years. It was during my time at Crayola and Sesame that I really realized I'm a business development guy. I like doing new things, and that's my passion. I have a hard time sitting still. I like a good challenge. I like meeting new people and hearing about different problems, trying to figure out how to solve it. So consulting kind of piqued my interest during that time. And I actually was able to make a transition into starting my own consulting firm and then merged it with another consulting firm a few years later. Sesame was my first client. That was when I made that pivot. And that was Edgewood Consulting Group. And I was a partner there for 15 plus years, retired from that a little over a year ago. And but while I was in my consulting space, at various times, I'd done a little bit of adjunct teaching out at Muhlenberg College and at Rutgers in New Jersey. I was in New Jersey at the time. And then my wife and I started to have a family, and I backed off and I stopped the teaching because I just didn't have the time. But I said one day, I think I might enjoy teaching. I think I might be good at it. So I let it go for 10 years or whatever the number was. And then I started doing a little speaking again at Rutgers. And one of the faculty members there said, Jeff, I saw a job down in South Carolina you might want to take a look at. I don't know if you're thinking about it or not. And it was one of the few job postings in academia that I saw where it said PhD preferred, not required. So by full honesty here, I do not have a doctorate, but I do have an MBA to be able to teach at all levels here at the MBA and undergraduate level. But I always, kind of joke, I've got a PhD in the real world, so to speak. So I applied for it, and it had a consulting role to it. They were looking to start something. And as I said a few minutes ago, I'm a business development guy. It all happened very quickly, and my wife had vouched for that. In a matter of weeks and in a couple of months, we picked up 4 young kids, and we moved from northern New Jersey to Columbia, South Carolina. And I haven't regretted it since. It has been the best 12, 13 years of my career. And I was motivated to do it because I thought I had knowledge to give back. I thought I could motivate and hopefully inspire kind of the next generation of marketing talent. I enjoy, like I said, challenges and problems. And I love it when a student speaks up still today and says, Jeff, is that still the way things happen? because it forces me to stay on top of my game, and stay relevant, because I'm literally training the next generation of marketers and business leaders and general managers, et cetera. And so it has been, as I said, just a wonderful opportunity. And I thank the University of South Carolina and the Moore School for giving me the opportunity, because honestly, not all schools give guys like you and I a chance to do something like this. But I personally think balancing the traditional academic approach with a more practitioner approach, balancing that as part of a student's experience is the right way to do it. They need both. And it's the application side that I think prepares them for their job. And I always say, just to kind of wrap up my answer to this question, I always say my job is to get them ready for their first job, and try to make everything I teach as relevant and real world as possible. In fact, I don't even give a test in my classes. It's all hands-on, it's projects, it's them leading and trying to build both those foundational and functional skills that we like to talk about. Functional being the stuff maybe you learn in a textbook and running a t-test or whatever it is. But the foundational is being able to communicate, being able to listen, being able to work in a team, being flexible, et cetera. And so finding that optimal balance of the functional and the foundational is really important in our young talent. And I've been committed to over the last decade to making that happen. So
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And it's an amazing trajectory that you've had, right? So, to be able to bring that, as you call it, the practitioner experience to the academic world, I think is absolutely like necessary today. And especially in a world where there's so much disruption happening right now, where, what we thought was, consistent and stable is no longer the case, right? So to that end, let's talk about this young talent, right? So let's spend some time understanding them. So when you came in and you spent a decade teaching all these young people, right? What were your top two or three observations about this generation, in terms of their critical thinking or their leadership, or in any which way you want to define it? I'm just curious to hear what you've been observing and seeing from this generation.
yeah, that's a very good question. And I could approach it from a couple of different ways. Let me start with what I think they bring to the party, and then maybe if this is okay, I'll talk about what I think some of their challenges are as well. Where I
Yeah.
think we as leaders and people who've been in the business community and even in the classroom have to be sensitive to. I think one of the first things I get a little frustrated with, and as you said, I literally spend my days surrounded by hundreds of Gen Zs, and before that, what are now kind of the younger millennials. And I get frustrated when I hear people say they're a selfish generation.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. I haven't experienced that. In fact, I give them the credit for creating the shared economy, from Uber to Lyft to Airbnb and VRBO and the other shared services, and products that they have access to. They really were the foundation of that, and realizing not everybody needed a car, right? That's not
Hmm.
always good for some businesses, but you know what? That's where they're at. They put their priorities on other things, and it's not always what I would call the traditional material goods that other generations maybe have prioritized more than others. I've truly enjoyed building relationships with these younger people because I also find that they care. They're very passionate about things that they're passionate about, right? Where they have passion, they live and breathe it. And so whether that's environmental crises, whether that's civil unrest, whether that's learning to be more analytical when their strength is more on the creative side.
Hmm.
In the past, I know when I was coming up, if I was told I was more left brain, I focused on my left brain. I see more and more of these students saying, if I'm strong in my left brain, I'm going to focus more on my right brain. I want to be better balanced. And I think because they're exposed to so many more people, and that's all obviously, and it's a leading question, Yogesh. It's obviously tied to digital natives and social natives, social media natives, which this
Yeah.
Gen Z is. So they have information at the palm of in their palm, literally. And so when I have companies that want to come to the classroom, for example, I no longer let them in the classroom to do an information session. They have the students have the information. They have to do an education session. They have to teach them something, right? And
Mhm.
that's been a really challenging in some ways shift, because we were so used to just rolling out. We have 5,000 employees, this, that, and the other thing. Well, students all know that. They can know that in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
They want to know. They want to know about your culture. They want to know about your values. They want to know, do you care? And I know those words get thrown a lot, but I have students come to me literally asking me, Jeff, what are the best questions to ask to understand a company's culture? Right? That means they want to know. Right? So I'll give them advice while I'm on it. I'll give them advice to ask multiple people the same couple of questions and see if they get the same answer. Right? I'll say, talk to me about somebody that's been successful and what their track was like, and then tell me about the last two people that left and why. Right? I've got a handful more, but they want to know how to probe those questions. They're inquisitive, and it's because they're constantly inquiring in the palm of their hand. Students, my daughter Sammy the other day told me something about the last election with Biden and Trump that was true, and I said, how do you learn that? How do you know that? She was only 11 at the time. She goes, I saw it on TikTok.
Right.
So they know they're not going to the same places, et cetera. So they're inquisitive, they're curious, they respect one another, they appreciate diversity, and we can talk a little bit more about this later. But it's not just diversity in the way the news shares it with us, gender and ethnicity. They're looking for diversity of thought. They're looking for diversity of ideas. And that's another one of the questions I give them is say, how do they inspire innovation? How well do they listen? The company, right? And so they're inquisitive. They're in real time. They certainly expect instant gratification. Whether that's good or bad, that's up to you individually, but they want it, right? And they do, but again, they're not selfish. They're, I think, very creative. They are looking for flexibility. There's no question. And again, depending on what hat you have on, that might be good, that might be bad. But they know what they want. I guess that's how I'll summarize what I see as their strengths. They know what they want. My students come into college knowing what they want, many of them. Where I remember I changed majors. How many of us changed majors when we were going through it? Heck, I started as a computer science major in undergrad. I didn't know what I wanted. Today, 80% of them, they know what they want. And we want to continue to support and embrace that.
So talk about that, because I have a 17-year-old right now who knows what he wants, right? And that's how he's directing himself, with his college selection process right now. In fact, we're literally in those conversations right now, right? And you met him, so you know who I'm talking about. So, why is that? Is it because they're digital natives? Is it because they have access to data, on a real-time basis? You mentioned curiosity, which I totally agree with. But what else is going on which is giving them so much certainty about what they want? I'm just curious to hear that.
Well, I think it's good and it's bad. I think part of it is they're having to grow up faster than maybe they should. And I think part of that is what's digital and socially driven with their phones, et cetera. But it is so competitive today through high school and in college. As you know, here, it's gotten more and more competitive. We had at the business school here at South Carolina, we had 16,000 applications for 1,600 spots.
Wow.
This is one of the larger public state universities. 16,000 business school applications for 16 spots. That's not the university. That's just the business school. We have 6,000 students at the business school. So it has gotten so competitive that I think they also hear that. And there are students even still in college now that they feel it going into college. They feel it that especially that freshman year, because the rigor has been ramped up when they're younger. And then they feel it when they're searching for an internship or a job. I've probably had 10 to 12 student meetings this week, all about, Jeff, I'm starting to really worry. I haven't been able to find that job. And I end up finding myself coaching a little bit more. I am certainly not a psychologist, but some days it feels like it a little bit, because I just say, take a breath. Everything's going to be okay. It's not a great market right now, but I didn't know exactly what I was going to do when I got it either. But there's so much pressure on it. And why I'm getting to your why, Yogesh, is because they're seeing all their peers post the job. Hey, just got hired by Deloitte. Hey, just got hired by J&J. Hey, just got hired by, and what my starting salary is. They're sharing everything, which then puts pressure on. There is no question. I saw some data. My GA was working on a project, and I thought it was really interesting. I saw some data comparing generations,
Hmm.
and it is almost double for the Gen Z generation in terms of feelings of stress and anxiety.
Hmm.
And I think it's that real-time information, being probably better educated than they're prepared for at
Hmm.
younger ages. Because what is it? Again, not my area of expertise, but the human brain isn't fully developed till you're 22 or 23,
Yeah,
right? Well, we've got a 15 and a 17-year-old that are already starting to think about things I was lucky to be thinking about when I was a junior in college.
that's right.
And so everything is just pushed down.
Yeah.
And so there are days I've had students in my office say, please, here's what I need you to do. I even last semester had a student, I told her to skip my class because she was literally, the stress was eating her up. I said,
Hmm.
here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to the horseshoe. I want you to go outside, get a blanket. I want you to sit outside and feel the sun for a little bit. I go, I need you to take a breath and relax. And it
Hmm.
feels like for some of these kids, they haven't had a chance to do that since they were a freshman in high school.
Hmm.
And, that's, maybe I'm getting off on a tangent a little bit more, but it gets a little bit more to where this anxiety comes from. There's good and bad with real-time information. You're up on the news, you know what the score of the game is, all that stuff. But you also know the kid down the hall just got a $70,000 job
Hmm.
and starts on June 1st, and you don't have one yet.
Right.
And they really are a group of people that have faced in their young lives a fair amount of disruption. They were very young for the most part during the 2009, 2008 recession, but they may have felt that with their family.
Hmm.
Their family had to make choices, may have
Hmm.
saw older siblings not be able to go to the school that they want to.
Hmm.
They're concerned about environment and sustainability. They're concerned about the climate, civil rights, the geopolitical thing that's been going on for years.
Hmm.
Um, I hear students talk about, they're in it. They have the news in their hand at all times. And
Hmm.
again, they're not fully prepared, I don't think, to manage all of it. And it's just creating this sense of pressure that a lot of times I find trying to break down when I get to see them, to say, you're doing fine. You're in a really competitive school, in a really competitive program, in a really tough class. You're doing fine. Take a breath.
Yeah.
But they put so much pressure on themselves.
Totally agree with that. And no, I think there is a bit of a misperception here also among the older generations, especially our generation, right? Both of us are Gen Xers, right? At the end of the day,
Yeah.
where they look at the younger generation and say, oh, these people are very fragile, which is not the case at all, right? But when you talked about the anxiety piece of it and everything, it's sending an unintended signal that they are, when they're actually not. They're just trying to figure out how to manage in their world, because they are, like you said, they're digital, natives. We are not digital natives. We had
Right.
seen a world outside of that, right? But we're not understanding their world, and they're certainly not understanding our world at the end of the day
Yeah.
either, right? So there's some disconnects there, which I think is really important, for I think everyone to understand that, number one. But the number two is that because they're digital natives and they've got these stresses that are going on, what does that mean for them as you think about them, from a career perspective and from a talent perspective in marketing specifically? What kind of insights can you share that that they could be doing something so much more differently than what we had to go through in our early career, basically?
Yeah, that's another multifaceted question, I think.
Yeah.
They I this is my approach, and then I'll see if I can come around to it. I work with them to embrace all the tools. There are universities and even professors at South Carolina and other schools that I know that still limit. The phones get put in a box. The
Hmm.
laptops have to be closed. The
Hmm.
no AI, or we've got a cheating protocol that'll check to use AI. I'm like, I just fundamentally disagree with that, because the world they're going to inherit will be with all those tools. That is
Yeah.
all going to be at their disposal. And I tell them they're more comfortable at most of it than I am. I still struggle creating a Google Doc. They do it in their sleep, right? So they can be more efficient. They can be more creative if they use those tools. I said they're going to compete at a different level than I had to compete with
Yeah.
when I went into my marketing job, right?
Hmm.
And so it's a matter of, do you embrace it or do you protect them from it?
Hmm.
Now, Are they spending too much time on their phone? Yes, they are. Guilty parent here, guilty as charged.
Yeah.
But there's also power in it if it's harnessed in the right way, just like anything through
Yeah.
history, if you use it in the right way. Being up to date in real time, having an answer to a question in the palm of your hand, having AI. I saw one of my teams yesterday created a beautiful package for a new product that they're introducing. I'm like, you have to be kidding me,
Mhm.
right? It looked like a graphic designer from an agency
Mhm.
created this product package, and they were so proud of it. And you know what? They should have been.
Mhm.
And I don't have a problem with them using it as long as they use it in the right way. So I tell them when they're using tools, and we're talking about digital here, to
Yeah.
think of tools as another member of their team,
Mhm.
not the answer to the question. It's a member of the team working to answer the question. And if you think about it that way, you're more likely to use the tools in the right way. Now, do I have a few that are probably abusing it? Yeah, I probably do. But you know what? I'm seeing good quality work with some of my corporate partners that are saying, Jeff, this is agency quality work. And I've got undergrads at their junior, senior year delivering it.
Wow.
So if harnessed in the right way, it can be extremely powerful. But there is a balance because, I now, well, you were going to say something. I'll let you go and then I'll come. This is probably a different topic.
Yeah, so I want to talk about the quality of work that you just mentioned, right? The fact
Mm-hmm.
that they're able to do this using these tools and they have no um, issue with being experimental and playing with things. I saw this also in one of my classes just the other day, where one of my students was playing with synthetic data. This is a hot topic in the market research industry right now, where people are for it, people are against it, and these students were just playing with it and saying, "Yeah, hey, this is working, but this is not working. Let me just finagle this over here." And I'm sitting there watching it live on screen as they're doing this, and I'm sitting there thinking like, "Oh my God, I would have thought like 10 times before I would have made a change." And here they're just going and doing it,
Yep.
and they're not worried about taking that risk because they know if it doesn't work, they'll just go back and redo it because of the technology that's available to them, right?
Right.
You can make those kinds of adaptations very easily. And that mindset of experimentation, I think, is actually a huge competitive advantage for them.
Absolutely. And that plays into that idea of curiosity. Absolutely. They're constantly experimenting, trying new things, doing different things. I had dry runs with my teams yesterday, a bunch of my teams that are going to be presenting to our corporate partners next week.
Yeah.
And I had two teams that fundamentally changed their strategy from what I saw 2 weeks ago and did it in the last week.
Wow.
And part of that is I encourage that. And I
Mhm.
may ask questions to say, are you sure you thought about this right? Years ago, even when I first started teaching, they'd have stayed on that track.
Mhm.
Today, they're like, because I think they can operate faster. I
Mhm.
think they can operate quicker. Now, we'll talk separately about social and communication skills.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
in terms of their thinking, their curiosity, etc., really, really powerful. If it uses, they're quicker. I had one of my board members a few years ago came in and gave a talk from 18 months to 18 minutes.
Huh.
And it was really well done. The students, I don't think quite fully understood the context because their world is 18 minutes. You and I grew up on a new product launch. It took us 18 months. We planned
That's right.
18 months in ahead, and the media buys 12 months ahead,
Yep.
and put the research plan together. 18 minutes now, right? If somebody posts something on X, right, use it
Mhm.
as a marketing opportunity. Like if you guys have never seen the poop case study from Smart Car, look it up on YouTube,
Mhm.
and how they used a Twitter post at the time to turn it into a earned media campaign that completely addressed the biggest barrier to purchasing a smart car. It was brilliantly done
Mhm.
on almost no money in
Mhm.
real time.
Wow.
That's this generation. They're very different than what you and I were trained on.
But so there's an important learning for companies here, though, right? Whether you're a small company or a huge multinational global company, right? The P&Gs, the Cokes of the world, which is that if you have systems and cultures that are designed to be deliberative, and you've designed your organization to de-risk projects before you launch them. With this generation, they're not. How do you see those two things reconciling then? Right, because the company culture is slow, but this culture of this particular generation is speed and efficiency in a way, right? What would you suggest to companies on how to think about this as they're thinking about their, the talent coming into their organizations?
So that is a great question, Yogesh. And I don't know, to be honest, if I have a great answer to that question because I deal with it every day. So I sit in between about 24 corporate partners,
Mm-hmm.
many of them Fortune 500 companies.
Mm-hmm.
And I sit behind a couple hundred or between a couple hundred Gen Zs.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to connect those dots,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're absolutely right. Embracing innovation, curiosity, um, and flexibility is really important
Mm-hmm.
to this group, which is almost the opposite of a traditional Fortune 500 put that hat on
Mm-hmm.
type of culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to share this story, and it's a fairly blunt story, but there's lessons here for companies that it has to change culturally. And by culturally, I do not mean hiring a VP of diversity. You can do that if you want. It's fine. Um, it's not about putting a task force together,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's cultural.
Mm-hmm.
You can't legislate yourself to diversity and inclusion, if you will, or respecting one
Mm-hmm.
another. That has to be cultural. So I have one of my best students I've had in my last 10 years, got the most out of her 4 years here. I took her we had a group of students up at a Fortune 500 company. I won't name names.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to meet these students. And in particular, they had a particular interest in this young female. And she had a great visit. And said she enjoyed it. And I talked to her. I said, and she goes, and they offered me the job. I said, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I know they really like you. I go, what are you thinking? She goes, Jeff, I would never take a job there. This is a
Really?
Fortune 500 company. You would
Wow.
all know it. And I go, well, why? And she goes, Jeff, well, they had my meetings in this wing of their building that had some glass and it had funky colors and it was contemporary chairs and it was all this thing. And this is her quote, not mine. So nobody hold this against me. She goes, it was all lipstick on a pig. She goes, as I went through my day,
Mm-hmm.
what I walked away with, this company is old, it's slow, and it's white, and it's male. And that
Wow.
was her quote. It's old, slow, white, and male. How
Wow.
could a company like that embrace diversity of not only people, but diversity of ideas, diversity of thought? And you know what? I looked at her and I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. I mean, to pick that up in a 3-hour interview,
Mm-hmm.
because you know what? Largely, that's who they are. And I say that not in a threatening way. I say I'm coaching these students on how to ask questions to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the last thing I want for them is to end up in a job that they're uncomfortable or they're not respected or that they don't have the ability to be curious and
Mm-hmm.
innovative. And so I'm not only teaching them the principles of marketing, I'm also teaching them how to navigate the real world, how to find a job.
Mm-hmm.
I have multiple students a day I'm coaching on interviewing and resumes. And I always tell them it's a two-way street. You're interviewing them and they're interviewing you, and you can always say no. Too often, they feel like they're subservient to the offer. I'm telling them they're not, right? You shouldn't be. Now, on that, I was, kind of direct there. I also tell them as an graduate, do not try to be perfect. Be smart.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself a good start to your career. I do have students that are looking for the perfect job. And I have to sit them down and say, gang, a 22-year-old with very little work experience is very unlikely to find the perfect job.
Mm-hmm.
But in 5 years, you can. If you're in a place that will nurture you, that will invest in you, that will train you. And so helping them explore that, that's what they're looking for. Most of my best students know they're not entirely ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, that's okay. When I talk to my corporate partners about what they're looking for in young talent, the first three things that come up: agility, grit, and the ability to communicate.
Yep.
I haven't in 13 years had a company tell me I need students that can run a T-test.
Exactly.
Right? They're
Exactly.
looking for agility, grittiness, which to me is also competitiveness,
Mm-hmm.
and communication skills. And so in what we're trying to do here in our program through the center and the efforts in our curriculum is put students in position where they have to be curious, where they have to be agile. I've
Mm-hmm.
had projects where kind of in the middle of it, we've had a wrench thrown into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a few students say, Jeff, they can't do that. I go, oh, yeah, they can. Welcome to the real world.
Yeah.
That's how it works,
Yeah.
right? And I would say of those three, communication and agility are the two that come up the most, is being able to navigate an ever-changing world, which as we talk, they're going to inherit.
Yep.
And then being able to communicate their thoughts, their ideas, both orally and written, to be able to make a difference and make change. And so I give them, as you do, as many opportunities to do that as possible. So I'll tell this story because you could jump in here too. So Yogesh and I both in what we call our capstone class, which is a required class for our seniors, that we do what we call book projects. And we assign different teams from another project we do with, we assign them a book. Could be Good to Great, Made to Stick, Contagious, Brand Love, I think is one you use, Yogesh.
Yep.
And they have to teach the class on it. And the rules are no PowerPoint, no notes, no phones, no computers. They have to get up there and engage a class for 30 minutes to an hour and teach them a topic. That's teaching agility, communication, a little bit of grittiness. I've got students that are scared to death to do that because they've always had PowerPoint as a crutch. Hey, guilty as charged, right? But putting them in a situation where they're uncomfortable, they probably don't realize that's why we're doing it. We probably got a few students sitting here listening. But that's why we're doing it. I'm not looking to fill a class because I don't want to teach that day. I'm doing it because I think they're going to learn a few things in that process. How not to use PowerPoint as a crutch, how not to use note cards as a crutch. There are no note cards in the real world, right? You got to know your material. You got to be able to look people in the eye and teach them something. And by the time they're done, they're like, that was pretty fun.
Yep.
And you told me a story yesterday, or one from last week.
Yeah, no, it literally happened yesterday, right? So
yesterday,
yeah. So I followed your approach for the most part because I'm teaching online. So obviously they have to use technology, to a certain degree. But what I was blown away with was the creativity in how the students approached talking about their books. So far we've talked through 4 books. We have 2 more to complete still. So we talked about Grow by Jim Stengel, Brand Love by Lydia Michaels, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and then the other book was Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely, right? So 2 on the behavioral sciences side and habit side, 2 around values, purpose, and diversity kind of thing, so far. And then the last 2 books are going to be on AI and Girl Boss, which is all about diversity at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
What I found from the 4 presentations I've seen so far is that students were using AI tools to create text to video. So they literally created examples to show how a concept within the book can be brought to life, which I thought was brilliant. Number one. One team actually took the learnings from the book to their client project and said, hey, this is what it means for the client project. And they actually created an ad for the client project. And it just so happened that the client was actually on the call yesterday listening in because I'd invited them to join this book project presentations as well. And she was like, wow, I love that. Can I get access to that video kind of thing, right? And she says, where did you get all the pictures from? They said, well, we just took, we took the pictures from your Instagram and we created basically our visuals and we created the text and we put it through this AI tool. And out came this whole, this ad. Another group created a podcast. Another one did, the skit. Basically, she and her roommate created a skit, which I thought was also very brilliant, kind of thing. So the diversity of approaches without having to use PowerPoint was mind blowing to me. And all of them, every group, I was so impressed by the fact that they had read the book, and they could talk intelligibly about the book, and they were able to kind of not only quote examples, but they could literally pull out the key themes and say this is how it's relevant to us today. Grow's written back in 10 15 years ago by Jim Stengel. He was the former CMO at Procter and Gamble, right? And the fact that they could, talk about it in the context of the woke, anti-woke culture that we're in right now and say, well, even in that world of anti-woke, brands can still have a purpose and they should stick with their values. That was what I heard from them yesterday.
Yeah.
Mind
Yeah.
blowing.
Yeah. It's phenomenal what they can do when you give them, I think, the freedom
Yep.
and the platform to do it. If it's too rigid or it's tested, it's rote, whatever it is, they don't get a chance to do that. And
Right.
it is so inspiring when you see it done. And I'm really hoping this conversation, obviously some of it applies to academia, but I think the thought process, the way you engage applies to any business setting in terms of
Absolutely.
providing those platforms to innovate, to be curious, to share. And
Mhm.
I didn't really finish that one of those first questions you asked
Yes.
about
Yeah.
where I think the challenges are
Yeah. I was going to
with
come to that. So this is a good time to come into that. Let's go for that.
yeah.
Yep. So,
And because I think it is in some ways about relationships and communication.
yeah. Hmm.
Um, and I would say by and large, my students are pretty good in their writing. I have some really good presenters, but in some ways they're prepared. It's not scripted, but they've scripted it. Um, Being comfortable on their feet in real time without having time to think about something is really
Yeah.
important. And it's and I'm also seeing, and if I do have students on here, this is no offense to anybody, and I think we probably do. I am seeing the COVID bubble kind of work through right now. And
Hmm.
that COVID bubble, whether it was in high school or the early part or freshman year of college, really put it put limitations around their ability to build personal relationships.
Hmm.
And so again, another piece of advice for companies. Yes, I have students that want to be hybrid, but I'll tell you what, they are the minority. The majority of my students that want to at minimum be hybrid, and I have some students that want to be back in person.
Hmm.
Those are the students that get the value of personal relationships. We need to work hard with this generation to show them that an email response or a text response is not how you build relationships. It
Hmm.
is, it is, it is you at some point, there are certain situations you need to walk down the hall, open the door, and have a conversation.
Yeah.
There are times you need to walk down and shake somebody's hand, right?
Hmm.
And right now, today, Gen Z, over 50% of them are saying they spend more time building relationships online or in social than they are in person.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that is the downfall of these digital natives. It should not be an excuse to build a relationship.
Hmm.
The relationship should not exist only digitally. And so even, I told one of my students last week, because their internship is going to be mostly virtual. I said, I don't, even if you got to pay for it on your own dime, easy for me to say, but I said, even if you have to, or you have to ask your parents, go spend a week in the office, go shake everybody's hand,
Hmm.
ask if you can sit in a couple of meetings and get that opportunity, right, to build those relationships. To me, communication is not just about oral and written, it's about relationships. It's about being able to communicate with people effectively across platforms. Today, too many of this generation, I think, are using social and online email to build their relationships. We have to work with them to push to say, at the end of the day, successful businesses are built on relationships. It's about people coming together towards a common cause. And there's a little bit more work I think we need to do there. And I think, and I've got employers that are saying in their interviews now, they're also seeing that COVID bubble kind of work their way through, where the kids aren't quite as confident in their interviews than maybe they were a few years ago. Those couple years messed with people, right?
Completely.
And
Completely.
especially a younger generation that's not fully developed.
Yeah.
And so that's why you and I both are trying to give them as many opportunities to meet with our employers, to present. I'm taking a team of 30 students, 6 teams of 5, to Atlanta in 2 weeks to
Hmm.
present to executives at Coca-Cola North America
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
person. I want them in the room, looking at a table of people, and with confidence standing up there and saying, here's the work we did, and we're damn proud of it. And learning how to present with confidence, conviction, walk around and shake their hands. The only way to do that is to put them in the situation. Don't let them use virtual as a crutch. Don't let them use hybrid as a crutch. Business still succeeds on relationships. I just can't emphasize that enough. I'm a big believer in it. And ultimately, it's about building relationships is what leads to leadership. Because I always say leadership is about influencing people and building relationships. Management is about getting stuff done. If you want to be a manager, get stuff done. If you want to be a leader, it's about your ability to work with people. And they need more of those opportunities.
They need those opportunities, and they also need to know how to work across different generations, because let's face it, going through school and university, they're in the same peer, same age group for the most part, right? So they know how to interact within their own age group. But when you go into a company, now you're working across all different generations, right? With very different sets of expectations and very different sets of experiences at the end of the day.
Right.
So it becomes really important to know exactly how to interact and how to engage in that scenario. And
Right.
I'm a firm believer that you don't have to be a 50-year-old to be a leader. You could be a 23-year-old, and you can also be a leader at the end of the day.
Well, I was facilitating some focus groups with USC students in a different college. They asked me to be an independent third party and do some research moderation.
Yeah.
And I was doing that 2 weeks ago with some students. And that is exactly kind of what I was hearing from them and trying to pull out of them is that point, Yogesh, is that is exactly how they need to be thinking about this, right? It's all about the relationships that you build. And in that particular case, there was a corporate partner involved that said, yeah, I have 25-year-olds managing teams of 25 to 30 people.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
And their pushback to us, not the students, to me, because they knew I was with the university, was, are you preparing them in 3 years to be able to manage 25 people? That's not in the textbook.
You'll never find that in a textbook. Exactly.
Right. And so, again, that varies by industry and company. I get it. But that was a great example when I had a team of students and some corporate partners, and they said, I've got a 25-year-old managing 30 people. How many of you could do that?
Yeah.
Most of the students looked like deer in headlights. They hadn't, in that particular college, they had not been prepared for that.
Right.
And they're like, oh my, I mean, what's that mean? Right.
Yeah.
And I say, you know what it means? A heck of an opportunity.
There you go.
If you're prepared for it.
So right? Jeff, I'm going to tell you something now. We're going to test your agility right now, actually.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. We are. I'm going to bring on two people who wanted to say something to you in person. Okay. So I'm going to bring on Amanda and Emma, who both have something to say to you, because you have some news that you just announced to the board last night, but they both know it, and they had some words to share. So, ladies, you have the floor.
I can go first. Hi, Jeff.
Hello, Emma. You got a big project next week. You should be working.
Oh. Jeff knows it. Jeff, you were kind of like a living Darla Moore legend to me before I enlisted in your class. I asked Beth, one of the other professors, who should I take for 465? And she said, without a doubt, take Jeff. Sorry, Yogesh, I know you also teach that class. But Beth told me, I know you, I know what you enjoy, and you're going to love Jeff's class. And she was absolutely right. Every day that I sit there, Monday, Wednesday, myself and every other student in there is absolutely enthralled by everything you have to say. Obviously, you have the marketing expertise to back up everything you're saying, but the way you go about working with students and encouraging us to speak up and try to answer questions and encouraging us in this project that we're doing with Herradura Tequila has just been one of the best experiences I've had here. And I've talked about it in every cover letter I've written and in every job interview or phone call with a recruiter. I keep bringing up this project that I'm doing, and it's been one of the most memorable things that I've gotten to do, just a hands-on project that not every other college graduate can say. And Monday night as well, I received a product management concentration from Jeff, which was something that he didn't even need to give me because technically it's not available to everyone. So just the way you advocate for your students and the experiences you've given me, and also, putting me in scholars with Yogesh as well and getting to work with Millikan has just been an absolute dream come true. And getting to spend this last semester with the two of you and just learning so much has been just the best experience. And we're all going to hate to see you go, but we're really excited for what you have planned.
Emma, thank you. You have no idea how much that means. Thank you. And now Miss Amanda.
Well, I just wanted to hop on and say thank you for everything that you've done here at USC and for all the students. And the students here at the Moore School would not be here without you. And from teaching us in class and all the material that you teach in class to helping us network outside of class and helping us with our resumes and interviews, and also just being there for us, like you said earlier, like as a coach, your support means so much to all of us. And we're going to carry your lessons and encouragement throughout our entire career with us. And as we said on Monday, it's a bittersweet moment, but we're so excited for you to start this new position, and they're so lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you, Amanda. I appreciate it. You both of you guys have been wonderful students, and I told you guys on Monday at the event, and I tell all my students, and I've seen a couple pop up of my former students, the relationships I have with you don't change just because I'm making a change. And I will tell you this right now, you can reach out to me at any point. And if you need it, you ask, and I'll get you my cell phone. So, oh, and Yogesh, no, we can't have Richard. We can't have Richard.
We have Richard.
Yeah, you'll have to forgive me for being a few minutes late. I was working with some of your neighbors to break into your office. And so I wanted to try to do this because I thought it was going to be something that was important. Yogesh said, we're going to have a few students that are going to come up here. And I know that Jeff has been really influential, not only to just me, but a bunch of other students who may not have the opportunity to be here and get to speak. And I've been Jeff's graduate assistant for about 2 years now. And one thing that really spoke out to me, because as a new person here on campus, I was worried that this person who I'd be working with, it was a complete black box. I had no idea. And the amount of relief that I saw just from the amount of student love that's not only on this wall here from the students that you saw speaking earlier, but it goes all the way back here as well. And so there are generations of students that you've been able to influence to not only be better marketers and better professionals, but also become better people as well. So just a big shout out to you and for all the things that you've accomplished here, and all for the different people that you've been able to influence. You're an absolute legend. So
Richard, thank you very much. You know, I value our relationship, so I very much appreciate that. And Richard's heading to McDonald's, and he's going to make me proud and come back and speak one day. And to celebrate, he and I went to McDonald's last week, and I had a Big Mac for the first time in 10 years. So it was good.
They got one part of your order wrong too. So very classic McDonald's experience, right? What did you expect,
that, Richard? You'll go fix that. We don't have to worry about that one.
Oh, so. Yeah, he'll fix more. So Yogesh, first, thank you for doing that. Emma and Richard and everybody, just thank you. It means a lot to me. And there are some of my former students, I'm guessing, on here because they've seen it. I've seen a couple pop up. So I better tell them a little bit about what's going on and why I'm doing it. But before I do that, I want to say when I came here 13 years ago to the university, I thought I could teach. I thought I could add value. I thought I could, I had stories to tell. What has meant the absolute most to me during my time here is the relationships. And I have students that still call me 5-10 years later for interview advice when they're interviewing for a new job. And it means the world to me. It truly does. I'm not one of those guys, my mom was a teacher. I have a sister as a social worker and others a counsel. I'm the business guy, right? The conservative business guy. I didn't think about the relationships, honestly, coming in. I thought I'd enjoy meeting the students, but now the students give as much to me as I hope I've given to them. And I truly mean that. So with that said, I did announce in the last month or so that I'm going to be leaving the University of South Carolina. I'm still going to be involved. I'm going to still come back for some events and things like that. It means a lot to me, but I was offered an opportunity to start a business and innovation program at the high school level at Hilton Head Preparatory High School in Hilton Head, South Carolina, which also happens to be where my daughter goes to school and where I live now. So there's personal reasons as well. But professionally, I told you at the very beginning, I'm a business development guy. It's who I am. And when I started at USC, they gave me a blank sheet of paper to figure out how to do this. And this Hilton Head Prep has also given me a blank sheet of paper. And Yogesh, it ties in very closely to what we talked about earlier.
Yep.
Is I've been frustrated for the last few years that I don't think we're always doing the best job at the high school level of preparing kids to start in college and to start in a business program in particular, with the rigor that's expected as a freshman. And I've experienced that really across the entire eastern half of the US, because we have students coming from every direction. But I've been on my soapbox of saying, I think we need better business education at the high school level because things have been pushing younger. And now I don't want to make them a marketer yet. I just want them to have exposure to things like personal finance, marketing, selling, communicating, and all of that. And so I've been on a soapbox for a couple of years, and I was presented by the headmaster here at the school. He came to me a few months back and said, didn't even interview for it, said, Jeff, we're going to start this program, and I want you to be the director of it. And here's a blank sheet of paper, make it happen. And personally and professionally, I love challenges like that. And I still get to teach. It's going to be a lot different teaching, a high school and sophomore than it is teaching Amanda or Richard or Emma. But I like a good challenge. It's just how I'm built. And so, and then to top it off, being able to spend maybe a couple of years with my youngest before she finishes high school is certainly a great opportunity for me as well. But I am not going to lose touch with the university and the Darla Moore School of Business. It has meant too much to me. I valued it. And honestly, I think it's what prepared me to do this, because I know what they need to know when they get to be a freshman at a business school. And about 30 to 40%, this is for everybody, 30 to 40% of high school students will go into a business college. About 70% will go into what I would call a business or business related or business college, meaning anything basically other than liberal arts. And what I tell everybody is 100% of you are going into business, whether you're going to be a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, or LeBron James, you're going into business. And the more you can understand those principles, even if you don't end up being a marketing major or an economics major, the more you can understand at least a little of that coming out of high school, I think the better off you're going to be. And so I hope you can tell I am very sad, especially with Amanda, Emma, and Richard joining. The last week or so, it has started to hit me. But I hope you can also hear in my voice, I'm very excited by this challenge, because I think I can continue to make a difference. And I like that opportunity.
Well, listen, Jeff, one thing I've known about you for over a decade now is that you're the kind of person who always loves to give, right? And I think, I think Emma, Amanda, Richard, who represent the students who, you've taught or worked with, and all the people who are on the call, who are watching today, right? No, that's who you are. And that's actually the reason why I wanted to do this podcast in the first place, so that we get a chance to celebrate you, because you deserve it. So,
Yeah. Thank you.
You won't believe this, but when I asked the students, who wants to come on, these three were like, their hands went up right away, and there were others who wanted to join, by the way, just so you know. There were a lot more people who wanted to join, but because of, other commitments at work and things like that, they've been kind of like, quietly been listening into the call while they're in their own meetings at work. So, everyone's trying to be here for you, and so we wanted to take this opportunity just to thank you first and foremost for everything you've done for the program, everything you've done for all the students, because you definitely brought about a cultural shift within the program by making it student-centric, right? And people like Amanda, Emma, Richard can attest to that, because they've been the recipients of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been a wonderful experience both ways. Like I said, it's a two-way street. I've learned from them as much as they've learned from me. So,
I'm putting them back on if anybody has any last words to say.
Could I say something to the audience real quick, Yogesh?
Sure.
We didn't have a chance to get much into the program we developed here, which what we call the Center for Marketing, which is an outreach arm of the business school, of trying to connect us to practice, connect us to the real world. I won't go through all that we do. We do a lot, and Yogesh is on the board as well as two dozen other people. And some of what we've done, we couldn't do without them. But what I'd like to do is encourage all of you, if you're at a company, and I know I have I see Chloe just popped up. I've got some of my ex-students here. Don't be afraid to reach out to a university for a partnership. I can tell you, I'll stack my undergrads, Amanda and Emma, up against just about anybody. I've had companies tell me their work was better than MBA level work. No offense, Richard. Right? And a lot of my corporate partners that want to do a project with us are saying, what could be cooler than having 30 Gen Zs think about my brand with a blank sheet of paper?
That's exactly right.
And so I don't care if it's University of South Carolina, I do, but I know some of you are probably from all around the country. Find a school you can partner with. Give students a chance, this young talent. All the stuff I've talked about, without us allowing them to experience the real world, they can't be all that they can be younger in their career. And that's all I want for them. That's all I want. And I tell them that. I think Amanda and Emma, you guys know, I tell them that all the time. All I want them is for them to be happy and get a good start to their career. As I said earlier, it doesn't have to be perfect. But I've got corporate partners now that hire right out of our projects. And as Emma said, you can put it they put it on their resume. It gives them a marketing plan they can show in an interview. And so I have this platform, Yogesh, I have to say it. Give these guys a chance. I think you'll be blown away about what they can do.
I agree with that 100%, and I fully support that, right? And I'll take it one step further. You talked about, giving them their first shot at a job, right? I think it's also important to raise the bar on them.
Yeah.
And say, it's not just about the first job. It's about, 2 levels up, 3 levels up, 4 levels up. My expectation is that, from the classes that I'm teaching, that there'll be at least, a handful of students who will probably, make it to chief marketing officer, vice president of marketing, president of a division in the next 15 to 20 years. And there's no harm in raising that bar and that expectation. And if you want to be that, and if that's what you want, then you need to start now, right here, right? And starting to think about, how do I operate as a leader, and how do I operate as, not just a manager, but as a leader in bringing about that kind of change that's required. So, this Gen Z talent is going to be the next, generation of leaders. So they need to be trained as such from now.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you'll guess every time I raise the bar, they exceed it. And
there you go.
I'll tell this short story because I know we're about out of time. When I got to the University of South Carolina, I said, I'm going to do a project-based capstone experience for the undergrads. And I had 2 faculty members, not naming names, that told me, Jeff, you can't do a real project for a real client with undergrads. You only can do it at the MBA level. Well, you know me now, Yogesh. I don't listen very well. So I said, we're going to do it. And I don't know, the other day I was driving, and I think I'm somewhere around 1,500 students I've put through that capstone experience, and every one of them has worked on a real project and presented it to a real client.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's invaluable. And I was told they couldn't do it. And I said, screw it, we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think raising the bar, right, Emma and Amanda, have better prepared you for what's to come. Amanda already has a terrific internship at Novartis on her resume. She's already been challenged. She's not afraid of anything. And I know Emma's not. Emma tells me that every time I see her. So they're great students. They're great students. And if you raise the bar, you'll guess to your point, they will meet it or and exceed it.
There you go. There you go. So look, guys, I know we're coming up to the top of the hour. And I know, Jeff, I had to do a bit of a fake pass thing, to say, hey, I got more questions to ask you. I knew this was going to happen. Obviously, I've known this since the day I actually set this whole podcast up, right? We can always have you come back on board, and we can complete the conversation. But I do want to take this time to thank you again for everything you've done for the program, everything you've done for the university, everything you've done for the students, not just the current students in the program, but for all the graduates, and alumni that are out there. They've benefited a lot from you. And, for every CMO conference that I've attended, and I've seen, the early in career group sit there and talk about their experiences and how they were reflecting back on, what they heard from you and what they were experiencing, there was a uncanny consistency. You trained them well. So I would say that you can tick that box and say, my friend, the last decade, you have really made a difference to this generation. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I thank you all for being here, and all the people that have attended as well. I appreciate it. And Yogesh, thanks for all you do for us. And it's just an honor. It's an honor. Like I said earlier, they give as much back to me as I hope I give to them. And so it's a relationship, which has been a common theme through this podcast. It's all about relationships. So
There you go.
don't forget that.
All right, so I'm going to end the stream. You stay online for a second, but I'm going to go ahead and end this stream. So thanks everybody for joining this show today. We're going to be back in a couple of weeks where we have another amazing guest by the name of Lydia Michaels. She is the author of Brand Love, and she has basically written an amazing book about how to think about brands and emotional and rational components to marketing. And in that, she's also talking a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion as well. So she's an amazing speaker. She's got lots to share. I hope you can join me 2 weeks from today at the same time to have her talk about her book and her thoughts about marketing as well. So thanks, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, everyone.